Okay, think about it. What are the survival tools we have? Sure, we have muscles and teeth, but what about the tools we can't see? Like our big advanced brains. Well, sharks also have some pretty advanced, pretty hidden survival tools. Watch.
Super senses.
Underwater, the shark is predator number one. Its powerful outer body is built for killing, but some of its strongest weapons, its senses, are hidden. The shark has a built-in, high-tech system of super strong senses, such as... The shark can hear even the slightest sound from over a mile away. It can zero in on the exact position of an unsuspecting tuna diving way off in the distance, and lunch becomes tuna casserole. Even if the prey is perfectly quiet, the shark can smell it. The shark smells as water goes through its nostrils, and its smeller works a lot better than ours. Could you follow the scent of blood across a mile of ocean? I don't think so. Okay, so what if the prey is quiet and not smelly? There's still nowhere to hide because the shark has a sensitive system of liquid-filled tubes that can feel even the teeniest vibration. If the target is breathing or its heart is beating, even hiding under the sand won't help. With its well-built body and high-tech senses, a shark's methods for hunting are amazingly complex. But when a shark is hungry, it's this simple. If you're a fish, bye-bye. So, Ty, is this supposed to be work? I go out and research videos on how people use math and science, my favorite subjects, to make us smile and scream. First, there's Ellen Poon with her expando faces. And now the next video is about someone who turned a love of math into a lot of laughs. Watch.
Do the math.
Victoria Aguilera is taking a spin on the Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland. And believe it or not, she's at work. Victoria is a mechanical engineer at Disney and one of the designers of this ride. Today she found out the bracket that supports the floorboard needs to be redesigned before the ride opens, and time is running out. But she's cool. Maybe that's because she's a long-distance runner and knows how to pace herself. And maybe it's because she's used to rocky roads. When her family immigrated here from Mexico, she was only 8 and couldn't speak English. So she was put into classes for struggling learners, but she found a way to do a 180. First, since numbers are the same in any language, she started doing well in math. Later, Victoria learned English, became a good student, aced college, and began a career using her love of math. That career has taken her here, countdown to finishing this ride, and she makes it. The bracket works, and it's well disguised to look like part of the car. The ride opens on time, and of course, Victoria needs to take a test drive. So, I guess this means that what starts in math class can lead to thrills and chills. Who knew?
Back in the 1940s during World War II, the love of our country was at an all-time high. And so was the love of baseball, our national pastime. So, what happened when baseball players went off to war? The sport was so important to our national spirit that some pretty surprising folks stepped up to the plate and came to the rescue. Watch.
Playing hardball.
When America entered World War II, millions of men were being drafted, and some people were afraid that the all-American and all-male sport of baseball would be hit hard. They had an idea.
Yes, they make hits wherever they go. Diamond Gals, adding something unique to our national pastime.
From 1943 to 1954, the new All-American Girls Professional Baseball League had their turn at bat. It really began as a gimmick. Training camp included charm school. Uniforms were designed to show plenty of leg. And publicity wasn't about how well they played ball. They played with a softball, and bases were moved closer together. People figured women couldn't cut it. Well, they figured wrong. Soon, they were pitching hardballs, swinging Louisville sluggers, and stealing bases in regulation spikes, even if it meant hitting the dirt in their skirts and racking up a few bruises. They were tough enough to travel overnight in a bus, then play a doubleheader the next day. In fact, they played 120 games in 130 days. No sissies here. The All-American Girls Professional Baseball League began as a stunt, but by their final season, everyone knew that skirts and all, these women were true athletes. And they sure could.
About the same time Stonehenge was being built in England, on this side of the world in Central America and Mexico, an amazing civilization was being born. These people were really smart and developed a really advanced society. And then it collapsed. Huh? Really? Watch.
Mayan Mystery.
Deep in the heart of the Yucatan Peninsula lies an archaeological mystery. The lost kingdom of the Maya. Why did this very advanced civilization nearly disappear? Over 1,200 years ago, the Mayan Empire was an amazingly advanced culture. They built over 100 cities with millions of people. They painted, they sculpted, they wrote books on paper, developed mathematics, even predicted eclipses. Amazing architects, they built temples within temples that are still being uncovered. They invented a written language of pictures, hieroglyphics, and with it they carved their history in stone. Every stone on this staircase tells a story. They had power, wealth, knowledge, then they abandoned it. Why? Generations of archaeologists have dug through the ruins, they've gathered evidence, and there have been theories. Famine, disease, war, no one has been able to answer the many questions surrounding the Maya. Their story remains one of history's greatest mysteries.
Have you ever seen the movie or TV series called Fame? It's all about a high school for kids who want to be in the arts. Did you know that that high school really exists? Well, I put together a video where a couple of students take you behind the scenes.
Halls of Fame.
Hi, my name's Jesus,
Hi, I'm Lori Beth.
and this is my school.
Have you ever heard of Fame? I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to fly. Well, this is it. LaGuardia High School for the Performing Arts in New York City. And I'm gonna tell you what it's like here.
Come on.
Just like any other school, we have our academics.
Math, science, English, and social studies.
But most of all, we study the arts. Painting, dance, drama, instrumental, and singing. You have to audition. Everybody has to audition.
They tapped the rhythm and I played it back to them.
So I auditioned, not knowing what I was gonna do.
They played a note and I sang it back to them.
And then like the last minute, I just popped a song in my head.
I sang a song.
No me importa.
And it's such an amazing place.
We're always singing in the cafeteria, dancing around in the hallways, showing off a painting or something.
People singing constantly. I'm one of those people.
I'm a vocal major.
There will never come a day. That was bad. Okay.
When I feel good, I sing. It does something to like your soul or something. They're learning to take this energy in them, and instead of just letting it sit, they're using it constructively. They're using it to express something.
Everything that this school has taught us is useful for any career choice. It teaches you really more than anything just to be open.
You don't have to try to be somebody that you're not. Everybody comes from all over the place, and you could be yourself.
Well, school's out, and I'm off to the recording studio.
And I'm off to an audition.
See you later.
Bye.
You've seen how floods creep in and slowly destroy, but there are other natural disasters that happen quickly, violently, and often when you least expect it. Here's my video about one.
Earthquake.
The 1994 LA quake left over $20 billion in damages. Kobe, Japan was nearly leveled. In Alaska, 1964, huge tidal waves followed the 8.3 quake. The San Francisco 1906 quake was followed by deadly fires. Earthquakes shake, crush, crack, and cause chaos. But the fact that this disaster cannot be predicted is possibly the scariest thing about earthquakes. Ask the people of Santa Cruz in Northern California. It was just a sunny day in October. No one knew they were about to be hit. No one was ready in this gym class, in these stores, or on the Bay Bridge that cracked in two. Financially, this was the U.S.'s worst natural disaster to date. Earthquakes happen because of movement of plates deep within the earth that cause the earth's crust to crack. The plate's movement strains the earth, much like moving the two parts of this stick. The strain builds and builds, then releases, and the break creates waves in the earth. Seismologists use several methods to study patterns of past quakes to help them calculate the probability of more quakes in the future. And they're even able to estimate a quake could hit a certain area within a decade or two. But if you're in the middle of the shaking and destruction, you probably wish Mother Nature was a lot easier to pin down.
You're about to see a video about a time when a big portion of our country was struggling. That's a fact. But the video also mentions some fiction. A novel about a 14-year-old girl who writes poems about living through this time period. What period is that? Let's watch.
Out of the Dust.
At the beginning of the 20th century, the southern plains were an endless sea of corn, oats, and wheat fields. But the rain stopped, and the winds picked up. By the summer of 1933, dust storms made it hard to breathe and impossible to farm. Local economies were ruined, lives were threatened, and the land was destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of people packed up and moved west, but others stayed behind. In her Newbery Award-winning novel, Out of the Dust, author Karen Hess imagines growing up in the Oklahoma Dust Bowl. Through a series of poems, a young girl tells her own story of life after the tragic death of her mother and what it means to live each day with the bitter taste of dust in your mouth. Here is one of her poems.
Tested by dust. While we sat taking our 6 weeks test, the wind rose and the sand blew right through the cracks in the schoolhouse wall, right through the gaps around the window glass. And by the time the tests were done, each and every one of us was coughing pretty good, and we all needed a bath. I hope we get bonus points for testing in a dust storm. April 1934. Curfews are common. Mine is 11 p.m. on weekends. Cinderella had until midnight. Here's the story of a kid in Texas who broke curfew, and the result was a little more serious than his carriage turning into a pumpkin.
What curfew?
was a Saturday night in Austin, Texas. Trey Ellerby, his mom, and some friends were hanging out at the South by Southwest Music Festival. At about 10:30, Trey's mom said he and his friends could go off and she'd meet them later.
It's not necessarily the greatest thing to be scouting girls with your mother.
But one catch. Austin has a curfew for teens, and Trey was arrested.
Curfew was 10 o'clock on a weekend. I would have never figured that.
The state enacted the curfew to reduce crime, and it works. Since it was passed, juvenile crime after midnight has been reduced by 55%. Good law, but what if you didn't know about it? The attorney for the Ellerbys argues,
the city does not have prominently posted signs. There are some small signs around, but you really have to look for them.
But the city attorney reminds us that
ignorance of the law is no excuse.
And uses the example that even if you don't see the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit sign, you can still get a ticket for speeding. The Ellerbys are going to court to try to get the charges dropped. Should the charges be dropped? Or is Trey guilty as charged? Why not be the judge? Deliberate and draft your own opinion. That's legal speak for writing down your decision. The gavel's in your hands. One of President Kennedy's most significant achievements was his commitment to the space program. His promise that the United States would land a man on the moon before 1970 was realized, but he never lived to see it. Here's the event Kennedy dreamed about.
One giant leap.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And the whole world was watching. On July 20th, 1969, astronaut Neil Armstrong was the first human to walk on the moon, leaping into a new era for space exploration. The moonwalk not only rocked our world, but was proof that the U.S. had won the race for space. The race began back in 1957. At that time, the U.S. and the Soviet Union were enemies. When the Soviets launched the first satellite, Sputnik, suddenly our arch-enemies were literally hanging overhead, and our space program had barely lifted off, so we geared up.
Here we go now.
When the Soviets launched dogs, we launched a chimp. When they sent a man into orbit once around the world, we sent a man into orbit 3 times around.
Very impressive.
When the Soviets pulled off the first spacewalk, we were right behind. President Kennedy intensified the space race when he promised that the U.S. would go to the moon, and we did just that. First, American astronauts made the first manned orbit of the moon. Then we touched down and left behind American footprints and flag, and the race for space was over. The big winner was more than the U.S. It was people everywhere, who now had a new view of the planet we share.
100 years ago, people seriously thought you could understand how the brain works by feeling the lumps and bumps on your head. Luckily, we know better now. In fact, cool new technologies are revealing more about the brain than we've ever known. The brain surgeon in our next story is using these new tools to do operations that look like something out of science fiction, but they're real. So take a look.
Dr. Brain.
Call him the head guy if you like. As a children's brain surgeon, Dr. Ben Carson performed some of the toughest and most dramatic brain operations the world has ever seen. Before Dr. Carson, not many doctors were willing to perform this radical operation called hemispherectomy. It involves removing half the brain as a last resort treatment for kids with uncontrollable seizures. But Dr. Carson perfected the surgery, and he's done it on dozens of kids. Amazingly, after the operation, the remaining half of the patient's brain takes over most functions of the missing half. Dr. Carson has also stunned the world by separating twins who were joined at the head. In the past, one or both of the infants always died from this surgery. It takes guts, not just brains, to do what Dr. Carson does. He has to be confident, so before an operation like this, he practices using state-of-the-art brain imaging technologies.
This virtual reality workstation lets Dr. Carson surf through an image of the patient's brain before he goes in for the real deal. If you think all that's impressive, it may surprise you to learn that, as a boy, Ben Carson was a terrible student.
I was no question at the bottom of the class.
So how did he get from the bottom of his class to the top of his profession? For one thing, he got hooked on reading.
Between the covers of those books, I could go anywhere in the world. I could be anybody. I could do anything. It was phenomenal.
Talk about doing a 180.
Immigration is a special topic for Americans, because almost all Americans have families who came from somewhere else. But when the government has to decide who gets to stay and who doesn't, it gets pretty sticky. Where do you draw the line? Maybe this video will help you decide.
Coming to America.
Scenes like this happen every day in America.
One's in the water, man in the water!
Desperate refugees caught by the Coast Guard as they sail into the U.S. in rickety boats and homemade rafts. Or border jumpers, defying patrol guards and risking arrest to find a better life in the United States. The U.S. lets in about 1 million legal immigrants every year, but thousands of refugees are turned away unless they have special permission or they can prove that they face persecution in their own countries. Should America close its doors on them? There's lots of disagreement over this issue.
You have to close your doors sometimes. You can't keep letting everybody in.
Some people say the United States is too crowded already. Our cities and our schools can't absorb any more people. And new immigrants take jobs from Americans who've lived here longer.
You can't let just anyone come in because there's a limited amount of resources.
Other people say that America has always been a land of immigrants, and it isn't right to turn people away.
When Christopher Columbus came to America, nobody asked him for ID or any paperwork.
They argue that immigration is good for the country because immigrants bring in different ideas and new talents.
A lot of the strength we get comes from the fact that we are many different kinds of people in one huge country.
This country was built on immigrants. So how can you hurt immigrants that come here to try and make a better life for themselves?
Should America limit immigration, or should the door be open to anyone who wants to live in this country?
Unfortunately, some news stories don't have happy endings. People were shocked by this story about a demonstration in China that turned into a nightmare. When you watch the video, you'll see why the world got totally wrapped up in the spirit of those protests.
Face-off in China.
Spring 1989. The largest protest in the history of China. It started in April with a group of students marching through Beijing, the capital, crying for more freedom and an end to government corruption. At first, the strict Chinese government did nothing to stop the protest, and the peaceful demonstration grew. Thousands of students flocked to Beijing's Tiananmen Square, inspired by a sense of hope. They even erected a goddess of democracy as their tribute to freedom. Still, the government didn't react. As April turned into May, the spirit of protest spread across China. Teachers, farmers, and workers joined in. Then, on May 20th, the government took action. Truckloads of troops moved into the capital, but even that didn't stop the demonstrators. The next day, about 1 million Chinese rushed from their homes, clogging the streets, carrying banners, waving flags, and blocking the troops. On June 2nd, soldiers tried to march on Tiananmen Square. Again, they were driven back by the citizens. The protesters and the world wondered what would happen next. They got their answer the next day. Late in the night on June 3rd, thousands of troops stormed demonstrations all over the city. Tanks trampled the flimsy barricades in Tiananmen Square and plowed through the crowds. The soldiers shot at or crushed anything and anyone in their path. No one knows how many died that night or how many were arrested. But a nation was scared back into silence.